Penny, you ready?
Yes, sir.
We'll call the August 16, 2021 meeting of the Greater Board of Public Works and Safety to order at 5:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hoover,
Here.
Mr. Collins,
Here.
Mr. Rutherford.
Here.
Thank you.
Minutes of regular session of August 2, 2021, our last meeting, have been given to members of the board. Any corrections, additions, deletions from staff? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the weather presented?
I'll move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. First on our agenda tonight is Chief Hoggett. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. Tonight I come before you for a hold harmless agreement between the Greenwood Fire Department and the owners of a couple of houses on Fry Road. The owner is Dennis Coberhaber, and he approached us to see if we would be interested in using two of the houses, 1398 and 1404 Fry Road, for training. And we told him that we would love to do that. We do not plan to do any live fire training in these houses. It's just evolutions, hose evolutions, ladder evolutions, roof operations, those types of things. And they are slated to be demolished by the end of the month for development on that property. So we would like to have that hold home harmless agreement so we can start to do some training up there.
Chief, who prepared your hold harmless agreement?
City legal.
I'll see you did it. It's fine. Good.
I'll move to approve.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. With that, a couple of items.
Yes. Good evening, gentlemen. I have two contracts that I would like consideration of. They are our drug and alcohol contract. We've utilized Indiana testing services for several years now. We have a 2-year contract with them, and it is up for renewal as of October 1st. When we were speaking of continuing on with Indiana testing, they came and met with me with respect to our contract and our fees. So the first part of our fees for Indiana testing to do drug testing, it is $46.50. That is for DOT and non-DOT for the urine and saliva tests. Last year and the year before, the cost for those for the city were $22 per test, and that is with myself and the HR assistant doing the salivas in office for rapid. And then I do the urine tests for the airport and our CDL drivers for randoms, or for pre-employments, and then for randoms, everyone on our safety sensitive list, police, fire, they're all urine tests. So they came to me with a $24 per test for us to do it. We were able to negotiate to keep the costs low, where we're doing $23 per test. That is for saliva and urine, so long as I perform those tests. So we're still saving more than 50% per test that we do. And like I said, we capture every pre-employment, whether it's a saliva for any physician other than the CDL drivers in the airport. Those are all urine tests due to federal guidelines. And then we do the urine on everyone for random testing. So I'd like consideration to continue with Indiana testing for this 2-year contract. That will be good from October 1 of 2021 to September 30th of 2023 at the minimal increase that we are seeing.
Questions for the vet? Motion to approve the contract for the mayor's signature.
Move to approve the contract. Second.
Further discussion? Congratulations on negotiating that down. That sounds like a good
Good deal.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next.
And the second agreement I have, if front of you for consideration is for our DOT services. Our DOT services are when we have new hires that are CDL drivers, and we have to go through the federal motor carrier protocols with them, 10-year work history. We run their backgrounds and their motor vehicle records prior to even bringing them in for drug testing. But there's a lot of follow-up that needs to be done with the federal motor carriers and the driver qualification files. We have been utilizing Indiana testing again. When we looked at this contract, they were coming at us with a 20% increase to 20 or to 50 or from $55 to $65, I apologize, per driver. And I was able to negotiate with them to keep our current rate at $55 and not do a $65 per person with a 20% increase. And that would be just based upon when we run our annual MVRs every year. We run anyone who drives a city vehicle, we run their driver's license. So with that, those that have CDL licenses, when we run theirs, it was just spoke about that we would go ahead and forward them our MVRs, which are $1 to run. And it basically is saving us, as you can see, from $65, keeping the services at $55. And there's a lot of time that goes into doing these driver qualification files, and that's why we have them continue with that service for us.
Lisa? And this looks like this contract with their signature as well.
Yes.
I'll move for approval of mayor's signature.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You also.
Next on our agenda is Brian Metrick, the Hoosier Brewing Company. Brian, are you with us online?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can, thank you. Can hear you. Good evening. Or good
Thank
afternoon.
you. Thanks for.
Tell us what you want, Brian. We have some information here. We have Molly out with us as well.
Sounds good. It looks like the date did get changed correctly. So March 17th marks our 7th year anniversary. And so we're trying to do an event, and just to give you something similar in your mind, in order for us to give you what we're trying to accomplish. The St. Patty's Day event, opposite of the year, would be very similar to this. So we're trying to do a block party, a festival type event. It's a short period of time, 6 to 10, to celebrate our anniversary. We're going to invite Planetary across the street to join in. We have a DJ that we are bringing. We will have food trucks come in, and for that period of time, people will enjoy themselves outside. I'm trying to locate a couple live acts as well, probably a 2 or 3 piece band. And so from 6 to 10, we're asking for that section of road to be closed so that we can keep patrons safe.
Questions for Brian? We've got a graphic in front of us, Brian. We want to essentially that looks like halfway between Main Street and Pearl. That goes down entirely. Is that correct?
That is correct. I believe that is typical for the same event that's done in March, where that seems to work okay. And I don't recall. I believe there's barriers right at where that red mark is. So I think Pearl Street's still open, and then there's that alley just north of there still open.
Questions? I mean, I have some concerns about closing down Madison entirely, or any stretch there. There's some other areas to the north of your property, Brian, that I would suggest might be considered for a potential alternative spot. On to the rest of the board. This is March. Yeah, I think March 17th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay, yeah, the date,
It's
it's
September.
September.
Sorry
I didn't
about
catch that
that.
myself. Sorry. September 17th, 2021. So we got some dates mixed up there. Yep.
That was my
What
error,
about
sorry.
the city parking lot?
And it is a little difficult for me to hear, so I'm gonna try to listen in here the best I can.
What about the city parking lot in the evening? I don't know if that's a possibility or not. But that would keep the street
It's,
closed. I know that'd be less convenient for you.
We've had a street closed for most of the year.
Just catty corner.
Deputy Member Glosson, you have some input on this for us?
Yes, Mr. Hoover. So in reviewing this, the city parking lot is used for parking. I don't know how many businesses are open. So my recommendation, if it can be done, it may not be the prime location that they would. There is a city lot. Again, it's, if you look at the diagram, you got the patch of ground, then that's a city lot right next to it to the east. It's not right at their back door, but you just walk through the back door, you could get there. Or again, the smaller lot over by Devon's, I know it's getting away from things, but I think the issue that I would have, if we're going to close down a parking lot, what are we doing for the businesses that are actually here? If they're going to have that many people show up as well, they're going to have parking at some place to actually park. Because that business doesn't have it used as planetary, and they primarily would park at the north edge of this property.
I guess my take on it initially is that I'm not excited at all about closing down Madison Avenue. And I'm not sure, Brian, whether you've had an opportunity to explore alternatives to that if the decision to deny your request to close down Madison, there's other alternatives that might be more appropriate from our perspective now. See if it still salvages the event at some level. What's the other thoughts here?
What about the middle school property? Well, there's still a big parking lot down there with park buses.
the whole,
Currently there is, that's quite a distance away.
Yeah, it
I
is.
think we're due to close on that. I don't know if we actually close on that property. It might be at the end of September, to be quite honest.
the whole objective is the open door scenario where, it's outside our door, number one, where our objective, obviously we're a brewery, so we're trying to sell beverage. We're trying to allow people to come in, and it's opening, or it's inviting. And number two, that people have already become accustomed to for the past 5-6 years of that road closure party, block party scenario. And so I would like, if we could, if you could either vote on it, it's a yes or no. I don't have another alternative, just based on what we're trying to accomplish with having people come and go and flow. I know that, for planetary and for Reverie, both of those businesses will receive additional business from our patrons that are going to be coming to celebrate. So I know it's beneficial for both of those businesses. And so as far as parking is concerned, any place that we would take for parking, I would look at it as almost the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. We want people to come in from afar. And I'm anticipating 500 plus. I mean, if you look at the spring event that we do, I believe the last time we did it 2 years ago, there were several thousand people that ended up coming through that 4-hour period of time. So it was a very successful event as far as downtown's concerned. So if my request is that you vote on it based on how it is presented, with just the difference with the date of September 17th. And because right now that's the format that we've planned upon, and that's really the only thing I know how to do. Everything else has become such a challenge to try to cart beer, move beer, get permits for beer, etc., versus just having a one-day policy. For us, it's a lot easier in this scenario.
I understand that, Brian. I'm concerned about, we've got businesses to the north there, Victoria, Villa as well. main thoroughfare there.
Just don't think the time's right. We've had that road closed for a long time and down to one lane most of this year. It's just not the right time to close that road.
Well, I think from the city's perspective, trying to be business friendly, but at the same token, there are other establishments right around this area that we'd have to consider. And I know that we've had the St. Patrick's Day in the past. And I think we, the city, are all right with a one-time, once a year function. But when it starts and you have other businesses could virtually come out and say, hey, I want to close this section and I want to close that section, where does it actually end up stopping at? Not trying to hurt a business, but at the same token, looking at the logistics of trying to get the streets open and traffic to go through, even though it's 4 hours. I can guarantee you that we'll receive complaints at some point in time because it never fails. And proof is in the pudding. Was the city of Greenwood closed that street down for Rock the Clock, and we only closed it down one time in the 3 or 4 years that we've had it, or 5. It was the mere fact that it did not work out, and they could come around it. I'm just telling you, that's why we know it doesn't work out for
Right.
that. And logistics of the police and fire at some point as well. I mean, yeah, they can go around, but it just depends on.
Yeah, and I appreciate that it's not so much of it's a community event, it's who's your brew event, an anniversary of your operation, not necessarily just here at Greenwood, but other places. So, and I appreciate, I guess I should understand, Brian, your request for a yes or no vote from us. In preparing to look at this evening, I was considering inviting a conversation between you and the other city leaders to see if there was an alternative to that, but it sounds like that may not be something that's appropriate for you, for your planning purposes. So,
Well, and the genesis started too, and I think hopefully, I don't know if Molly's there, but Molly and Kevin both have, the genesis started months and months ago when we talked about other events, and it was hey guys, if this is what needs to happen, let's bring it forward and it should be able to be accomplished. So understand that it's not just, in the past few weeks, let's close this road, but rather something that we've been looking to, how can we bring that excitement back to this street again, not just March. It's been several years, right? We've been talking about doing a fall because we missed the St. Patty's Day event earlier in the year based on COVID, and we rescheduled last year. And so that stated, we were trying to figure out an alternative to that. So it's not like we didn't do it. We haven't done it in 2 years. So we're trying to revitalize this without losing that opportunity. Because I think if any of you have been there, you would agree that the road closure becomes, the majority of the attraction, because it's something super visual and it's exciting for a short period of time. And without that, I won't be the same. It won't be the same feeling. And so we're just trying to figure out, and I think hopefully Molly and if Kevin, if they were both to speak to it, they had that same vision as well. And we're just trying to continue that trend that we started with the St. Patty's Day event.
Molly, how do you feel about it? You
Well,
mentioned your neighbor.
He did, and we have had several conversations about this. But when I reviewed this with our events team, there were a lot of concerns about whether this would set a precedent. So we have several businesses coming in on Main Street, for example, which are right around the corner from this. And just trying not to set a precedent so that we need to close the road for every event that requests it, if that makes sense. I think we looked at the St. Patrick's Day party as something different. It involved the whole block and it's a little bit established. And I feel like we were good with that. Also, the difference is a Friday night where you're dealing with rush hour traffic versus a Saturday night, which that doesn't exist as much. They shifted the date to September 17th, which is a Friday night, just so you're aware.
So we're back to Friday night now instead of a Saturday night.
Correct. So it's Friday night at 6 PM. And the concern is that as we develop the downtown and as the middle school development comes online, we were trying to look at it from the long view. Is this something we want to do long-term or not, for one business? And how do we deal with these? So we're trying to kind of take a longer view.
Thank you, Mom.
I would move to deny this.
I will second that. Further questions or comments or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to deny the request as presented. And just to be clear, the request is now for September 17th, that Friday night. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Yep, sorry, Brian. I wish there was something that could be done to accommodate your interest. Alternatively, I suppose if you still want to explore that with Molly and with the administration, we'd be glad to entertain that, but I know you have some time crunch coming up.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We'll move on to Harvey Simonis. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Simonis, step forward, 1790 Woodfield Drive. We've got a drainage issue.
Yes, sir. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for this time. I don't have an electronic presentation, so if I could, I'd like to give you all some packages to look at. If I may approach you all.
Certainly. We do have these copies of your encroachment request.
Okay, I made some changes to the
Okay.
letter that was attached to that. I did that. Got one here, you two gentlemen. Just one first. Okay. One, two.
Tell us what you want to do.
Okay, we bought this property, just a little bit of background, in 2014. We're the second owners of this property. That drainage swell ditch in the back, I have no problems with water building up after we have a rainstorm. To the south of me is a cement pipe that takes over. Sometimes it fills up and with water, and eventually it drains out. Also, at some point in time, someone has either put sod down on this drainage area prior to us owning it, in this easement area. It's created what's called, I call high and low spots, where I have standing water for weeks after a rain. And I'm trying to correct that standing water problem. Proposed to put in a French drain. I apologize, I jumped the gun. I had some discussions with stormwater and community development. Those gentlemen have been very helpful. Mr. Weathers, Mr. Reether, been very helpful and suggesting guidance and everything. I misunderstood that it was okay to go ahead and put the French drain in. And I did that. And the first few pictures just shows some backgrounds of standing water and things like that. Picture 5 gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. I want to try to eliminate that standing water concern, which breeds mosquitoes and other things as a health hazard. And picture number 6 also shows a pipe that someone has placed in that area, I gather by the builder when they put that in. And as you can see, over time, that pipe has become clogged with stones and dirt and other debris, so water doesn't flow through it. Picture 7 is an example of what I've done. This shows the French drain. I put in a basin. I connected 2 4-inch perforated pipes to it. They are wrapped in Dur web fabric, along with number 5's river rock, to try to keep the silt from going and filling up those pipes and continuing to stop it up. The 6-inch drain pipe that comes into the properties to my north, under their property, is still partially open and will drain into this area, so the water from those areas can drain out. I don't want to present a problem to any of my neighbors by doing this. And picture 8 is another example of the pipe laying in before stone was put on it, things of that nature. And we haven't had much rain this summer, as most of you know. In picture number 9 is after a rainstorm. And it shows the drainage, the basin that I put in. And there's no water standing there. The picture number 10, the next one, is the other end of that, which shows the cement pipe. That is the underground drain. As you can see, there's standing water. That's not a concern. I walked down there and that water was draining properly out of that area. And if I could go back just to that standing water issue out there, it was standing high and low areas was brought to my attention by one of the stormwater department personnel who had come out to try to make sure my pipe, the cement pipe, was clear. And he said, that's probably the problem, is those high and low areas that didn't develop now in this easement area. And I took a shovel to press down on the sod, one of those high places, and my sod's just floating in water. So something's not working like it should. And it's been several years since that was put in, and things eventually fail to give way. So that water and that 16-inch pipe there, I could hear it draining away. And within 24 to 48 hours, that water was gone, as it should. We have no problem with that. Picture 11 just showed, that's my first concern, and I hope the board is willing to forgive me for jumping the gun and putting this in, and that French drain can remain there, and just try to finish it off a little bit. At the end, next to the basin on the far end, I would just like to put in some more river rock and leave it open so water can go down through that river rock from my neighbors to my north and flow out. And hopefully that can be acceptable. My second concern is the steep slope that I have in my yard when it comes to mowing. It's the steepest yard in the neighborhood. It is beyond the 15-degree percentage recommended for using riding mowers on it. There have been times I've been out there trying to mow it with my riding mower, gotten stuck. Thankfully, my neighbor has come over and helped me get out of that situation. And it's just a dangerous situation for me to be out there mowing this yard with my riding mower. And I can't do too well with walking mowers anymore because I've been around for years. So I'd like to put in some fill that would start just above the easement area on the east toward my house and slope in toward the easement area in about 2 feet, build it up to about 12 inches high, and go for a depth, width, whatever, down toward just over that French drain to cover it up with maybe 4 inches of topsoil. I'm going to use good topsoil, so hopefully I can get some grass growing in that area, and it will prevent that. And so pictures 12, 13 are just, it's a yellow tape measure I pulled across the back of my yard. On picture 13, you can see one end of it. I don't intend to go into the swell areas that's coming between either property on my north or the south. That area is sloped okay. I have no problem with that. It's just about 65 feet behind my house in the width area or length area, whichever you consider that to be, that I would like to put some fill in. I'd like to use some good topsoil. I bought a little bit of topsoil to put in, and picture 14 shows a little bit of that in a pile. It's not very much. I just wanted to get an idea of what it might look like. That is not up to 12 inches there. It does go over. You can see there's a white stick laying in the ground, and there's another stick above it, that taller stick up above that, where that yellow tape goes by is where the easement area begins. So I understand there's a 20-foot easement area. And I measured that from the center of the drain area on either side to determine where the 20-foot markers were. And on the west side, it extends, the 20-foot would go beyond my property into HOA area, which is not a problem. Also, on the back side of my letter that I attached there is a conditional approval from my HOA to do this work. And the last thing is a copy of my plot plan that I've drawn up. Unfortunately, it's been a few years since I went to school, and I could not come up with a good measurement scale on this, but I made some drawings there where the easement area is and where I'd like to put the fill, and how I'd like to do that if it's all possible, to try to correct this, what I consider to be a safe hazardous situation I'm trying to mow the yard. And gentlemen, that's my two concerns. Do you have any questions or anything? I'd be happy to try to address those.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We've got some information from our Community Department Services division. And I'm going to turn to Mr. Johnson to sort of lead us through the two areas that Mr. Simonis has talked about. Do that for us, Damon?
Sure. So I appreciate you bringing all these photos in to kind of log what you had at one time when you were installing them. So I think regardless, kind of talking about these at different times or different issues, different aspects. First is the underground pipe. So when the development was initially constructed, there was a 6-inch underground installed adjacent underneath the drainage swale. That was per city details, and that was in the drawings. I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
That's fine.
Mr.
Curtis is fine.
Simonis?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Simonis has said that he removed the existing 6-inch and then replaced it with 2 4-inch pipes. When we were looking at this, we realized the 2 4-inch pipes don't have the same hydraulic capacity as 1 6-inch. That would actually have to be upwards of, would have to be 3 4-inch pipes to equal the same capacity, flow capacity as 1 6-inch pipe. So that was our initial concern with that, as well as wanting to ensure that the upstream, the neighbors to the north, their 6-inch pipe was connected in. It sounds like my understanding from discussions with our staff that there's no connection right now.
I did not connect it into the drain basin, but because I didn't want it to become filled with all the silt and sod that's in that drain pipe. When you look at picture 6, you see what's in that drain pipe. And you mentioned it being a 6-inch pipe. Well, it's ineffective because it's filled up with dirt and silt. It's not working. And that's why I thought 2 4-inch pipes would give me an 8-inch capacity versus a 6-inch capacity. Now, if the board feels I should add a third line, another 4-inch pipe, I have no problem in doing that. That can be done. It's just having to remove some stone and put it back, you put it in.
Understand that sounds like you may want to do that, but, I guess, want to go to the other aspects or stay on this?
Let me ask, see if I can answer that question. The 6-inch pipe shows a picture, I mean, it's small, it's not doing anything.
So, how much, it looked like in some of your photos here, you have it, what you removed, you chopped up it to various lengths that you removed
Yes.
out.
Yes, sir.
How much, what percentage of your yard or of that length was filled in like that?
All of it, 90%, 100% of it is filled up like that. Even in fact, up by that drain basin, where it goes into my neighbor to the north, you look down in that pipe there, you can tell that it's clogged. So people to my north, that drain pipe is not helping them either.
So according to the plat, for most plats within the city of Greenwood, it's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain swales so that they can keep flow properly. And those cases where the swale is flat and up the slope, it launches the slope is flat up where the city would require these undrained pipes. They're not required in all locations, it's just where it's really flat. They would also, that would also include maintaining those pipes as well, those underdrains. Flow adequately. In this case, got this pipe, this underdrain pipe actually continued further to the south, one more property, where it actually tied in to another drainage structure. The concrete intersection that you showed in this photos here, I guess, picture number 10, it does continue down to the drainage structure at the property line south of those.
The water is not draining out this way the way it should be. So what's the solution?
Well, the underdrain,
Bigger pipe? Or-
well, the right answer is the underdrains need to be maintained.
And that's the homeowner's responsibility. But it also, to make it work, it's gotta be not just Mr. Simonis's, but the neighboring property, is that correct? So there's gonna have to be some investigation to see that clean out those pipes, that some, it's your neighbors.
It's a much bigger problem than what he has.
Yeah.
Does your water drain north or south?
South.
So
That's
actually,
typical.
the storage pipe with 2 or 3 of the other pipe, that doesn't make, as it is, not gonna make any difference if it's fall.
Well, we don't know, did you say, did you tell if the downstream underdrain was also clogged or?
At one time it was, back in 2017, one of the first pictures I showed there, I didn't address that. It showed it was really filled. The 16-inch pipe was really filled up. It was probably about 3 feet of water out there at that point in time. And of course, that much water, it does take longer for it to drain down and just, to evaporate and whatever. But the neighbors to our north, they don't have water standing in their yard.
Right, your yard definitely was designed and constructed to meet the low point there with that
Right.
intersection.
Understand that, yeah.
So for the 6-inch, your south property line with the 6-inch underdrain, as you removed it, did you tell the condition of the 6-inch underdrain flowing south?
At near where the cement pipe is, where I started taking it,
Yes.
it's clogged too. Yes. So this is over a period of, since the property was designed and almost 15, 18 years ago. Had that drain pipe, that 6-inch drain pipe been wrapped with some kind of material to keep the sediment out, it may have worked effectively, but it wasn't wrapped.
It wasn't, okay.
And it had no stone, well, it doesn't have the good river rock around it like I do. It has dirt and a lot of small pebbles. That's a lot of small pebbles have worked in that. It probably got put in there by mistakes by the builder, who knows?
Well, can we work this out to where, can you work with them on this, or? I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah, we were just talking, it's a very sincere problem you've got there, and you're trying to fix the situation. It's not something you're trying to suffer anybody, if that's, if you use that phrase. But I'm not sure that the three of us sitting here, even with your comments and James' comments, have enough information or technological ability to figure that out without being out there and having people do that. So I guess my suggestion would be that we refer this back to staff and that we make some the stormwater and community development services, figure out not just the immediate fix there, but that will take care of the whole thing.
I don't know if you can run the camera up, and see how far that line is downstream. And then
Possibly. The stormwater department or sanitation department might have a camera for that pipe. They may. The one aspect that I wanted to recommend was looking at his other issue here in terms of the placement of filter, try to level out that would potentially enter into the encroachment area. And so looking at these two different aspects, in terms of the wanting to level, we certainly understand they're wanting to maximize the use of their property, but certainly the engineering decision we should against allowing additional fill placed within the drainage.
Well, and I guess in my thinking, maybe you guys can chime in, but maybe people that issue and figure out what the larger issue is here on the drainage. And not trying to lay that, I know the grass is going to keep growing, you're still going to have that mowing problem. But I think if we get it into, I don't think it's just community development, I think it is drainage board that needs to look at this as well. And see if we come back with a resolution that solves the problem.
To me, if I may suggest, the resolution would be put in another larger cement pipe on my property and my property immediately to my north. But that's an expense I cannot afford.
And that may very well be, and I'm not sure that I have enough information to leave my fellow board members here to discussion about that.
Right, understand.
Either by consensus, we refer this to staff. And Mrs. Simone, if you're in touch with Jonathan, if he will coordinate getting all the various players involved to get it resolved.
Okay.
It may not be in 2 weeks or next meeting, it may be a bigger issue and we're ready to handle it in a short amount of time.
This didn't occur overnight. It's not going to be resolved overnight.
We appreciate you bringing it forward to us and what you've done. We appreciate your candor in trying to get this fixed.
You want this
Why
back?
don't we give you these back?
Unless they want to keep them for, there's other people to look at, and
Yeah.
research they
You
may.
can distribute them however they're necessary, is that okay?
They can keep them because they're, I have one copy also.
Okay, we'll pass those down to Dan. Thank you very much, appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time and I wish you the best of.
Thank you.
Here, here.
Mr. Carpenter. Right, six, section 4A.
Good evening. We are here for the acceptance of the improvements in Garden 4A, which included the surface asphalt and monumentation in the 13 lots that are in that section, and acceptance of the maintenance bonds and return of the performance bonds.
We've got a memo from Paul County with recommended unconditional motion. Is there anything you need to add to that, Andy?
No, that's correct.
That would be approved request. Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Could I ask a question or just present a situation here? These 13 lots, we pulled the first 8 permits on this section these homes were under foundations. No even vertical lumber had even been started yet. We went to pull the last 3 permits. The way the ordinance reads right now, according to what I've been told, is that we have to surface at 80% of building permit. Okay, well, in my experience, surface coat is what you want to do at the very last after almost all the construction is done. We were asked to do this at 10 lots before we could pull the last 3 permits, which were already sold probably 6 months ago to a homeowner, future homeowner. We had to stop construction, do it on a Saturday. Now I have surface asphalt, 90-degree weather, and I am fully under construction. It's just an interesting situation that I think somebody at Greenwood needs to think about. When is that really activated? Should it be at permit or should it be at end of home construction at that 80%? Because it's just, surface is what we want at the end. So the street's beautiful when everything's done. Now I'm probably going to have to redo it. I had a performance bond in place for the surface asphalt. So I don't know why the big push was to get this done and release 3 building permits. Just would like it to be considered. What does?
Careful.
That's my-
Something that, but you look at it, or Dan look at it.
Certainly the engineering can work with the legal department on it. It's been, we've had a lot of discussions in the last couple of weeks. This has come up. I think, Brighton State Section 4A is kind of unique because there are only a handful of homes. How many? 17? 13 in that section. 13. So normally the section comes through with 50, 60 homes like that. The percentages don't seem that, or in those situations, not as unique as they do in this situation. But his comments. I think even talking to Paul Pioni on this, we think that when this happened was probably back in 2008 when the market crashed. Different situation. So it was probably to protect what was going on then.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you much.
Thanks, Ryan Straussen, with the health system. Ryan, are you with us virtually?
Yep, I am on here virtually right now. So basically, I'm just coming to kind of acknowledge the completion of the improvements we've made as part of the retention area on their project on the north side, and to request a release of the performance guarantees for the project.
Daniel, again, we've got a memo from Paul recommending a non-conditional motion to approve. Is that correct?
Correct. I'll move for approval.
I'll second that. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Thanks, Ryan. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Anyone from the audience wish to address us? Hearing from none, we'll move on to Mr. Hoskins, the IDM compliance plan status update.
All's well with IDM, my current operating reports.
Always glad to hear anything from your office.
Nothing today.
Okay. Mr. Johnston. Gee, I want to think.
Some of the states, section 1, this one's fairly straightforward. There's no condition also. It's except the performance guarantee for erosion control. Excuse me. Except next to the general and the sanitary sewer inspection testing agreements. That's like 50% upfront.
Move to approve. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next is the 2021 sanitary sewer rehab project with the sanitation department. There was a bid opening on August 3rd, the low bid. The apparent low responsive and responsible bidder was the pipeline there. See the information part of you on the chart. So the motion is to award the contract for the base bid and on pipeline. Most responsive and responsible bidder for one sewer rehabilitation project. And authorize the mayor and deputy mayor to sign the board's behalf. There is no condition subject to available funding being utilized on the plans.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Next, this is our 2021 community crossing matching grant full depth reconstruction development overlay project. Now on screen, you can see the different locations that are going to be involved in that project. We had a bid opening last Thursday. Legal department had reviewed the bids and determined that Milestone Contractors LP was the responsible bidder. Their bid actually came in well below the engineer's estimate. So we are asked to award this contract for the base bid. Milestone is the lowest responsible bidder for this project. I'll authorize the mayor and deputy mayor to sign on board behalf of the finance department determining on the final funding source.
All move for approval.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Next, also our 2021 community crossings matching grant. This is our thin overlay project. Had the same bid opening date. Legal department reviewed bids. Found that Milestone Contractor was also the lowest responsible bidder for this project. So that's our motion for the contract. We bid to Milestone and authorize the mayor and deputy mayor to sign the court behalf, such as the finance department identifying the final funding source.
Sheep Road.
That's Sheep Road and Haver Road. So Sheep essentially from just south of the S curves to not quite, I guess, halfway between South 18 and Portsmouth.
I would move that we award the bid to Milestone. Yes, second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed.
The next 2021 community crossings is the third of our community crossing projects for this round of funding. This is our HMA Rejuvenator project. Bid opened last Thursday. One bid was received. Tech was the apparently low responsive and responsible bidder. So that's our motion to award the contract to Tech and to authorize the mayor and deputy mayor to sign on the board's behalf. Finance department finalizing.
We have a reasonable estimate. The bid price is below the estimate.
That's correct. That one, we estimated about $50,000 for that.
This is the,
That we talked about.
yeah, right?
Yes.
You know where I'm coming from with my comment. I don't agree with the rejuvenation process. I don't think that road is appropriate to do this on. I'll vote no on this project.
So
If you've got time to look into this a little further, since our last meeting.
in terms of the success of
Yeah,
this technology, I guess.
we've not had any success in the city using anything remotely like this that I'm aware of.
Well, just to clarify, this is not, we 4 years ago, we had some problems with microservices. So this is different.
No, it's a little different, yeah.
This is, we had it on Curry Road, a couple, one location, as well as a few streets on Radio Station 8. The intent of this treatment as a preservation treatment is to treat roads that have been a few years old. Essentially rejuvenate the layer of asphalt, the top layer, the surface layer, re-bond the aggregate within the surface layer, make it, I guess, reconstitute as water repellent. Repellent can't be infiltrated by water.
This isn't chip and seal, is it?
That's correct. It's not. It is merely a spray-on application of the solution.
But we just recently did crack sealing on that road, right?
I have to double check, but
What effect was this?
That
have on
one-
Crack sealing.
I'm not sure what the full reaction might be between this solution and
It may not be a chemical reaction, but it's, we've already crack sealed it, what benefit would this be
okay, so this,
in addition to that crack sealing?
okay, So the crack seal treatment is focused solely on the cracks. This treatment covers the entire width of the roadway, the surface of the road.
Should not discount just concerns with, we did pass it to the line. Last time. Anyway,
Just making myself
we,
know.
right, set it out today with a hope and pray that, the concerns will come to fruition, I guess.
Good. You can say it.
So you don't say, I told you so, at some point in the future.
I hope you can prove me wrong.
So we know how Mr. Cole is going to go. Is there a motion to, I'll second it. Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-1.
So, 15-0.
My voice is already okay,
My next item is preserve at South Lake, Main Ridge. This is related to SAF and 15-year loss of the motion here would be to authorize staff to prepare a 15-year law sewer service agreement for the preserve at South Lake, and to authorize the mayor to sign the final agreement on fourth and half resulting. It's been reviewed and approved by the sanitation field office engineering division and the legal department. Have any specific questions? Auditors here, the people answer.
questions, please? There a motion?
Have we can be approved.
I'll second that. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Matt.
And my last item is more of an update. 2 weeks ago, you approved a noise ordinance waiver for Morrisville Road 3, Bridge 4. They had to postpone some of those dates. So the first 4 will actually go against Thursday, the 19th. The second 4 will occur on.
I think we gave you the flexibility, so, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Daniel?
I guess that's all I have. Thank you.
Greg, anything for you?
I'll move to approval of the claims as submitted.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We will stand adjourned at 6:27 PM. Thank you all.